Hey guys, welcome to AM Systems. So basically, after the bioreactor production and harvesting step, there's clarification, and after that, there is a MEP hypercell chromatography step. So, and this is a purification step, and it comes under the downstream, but in some processes it is under the step upstream category as well. So basically, this is a hydrophobic interaction chromatography, and this is the hydrophobic charge induction chromatography. So basically, it's a capture and purification of antibodies. This sorbent is designed for capture and purification of antibodies and various recombinant proteins from laboratory to manufacturing scale. A unique separation mechanism and selectivity for protein separations, a no salt, low salt alternative to hydrophobic interaction, and enhanced process economics. Monoclonal and polyclonal IgG capture and intermediate purification aggregate DNA and HCP removal. So basically, this step is you don't need UFDF, difiltration, and ultrafiltration, so saving of unit operation, and to promote protein binding, resulting in simplification of process operation. MAP hypercell sorbent contributes to a simplification of process development, saving of unit operations such as diafiltration and ultrafiltration, as mentioned before, and lower waste disposal. Anti Anticipated long service life is expected due to MAP hypercell sorbent's resistance to harsh cleaning in place method, zero point 0.5 to 1 molar NaOH, 30 to 60-minute contact time, all factor contributing to lower purification cost. Remember my bad, the critical steps are map hyper, critical process parameters are bed height and load. I'm gonna go into detail with this load thing. Load is a column load. It is usually 30 to 120 liters clarify harvest per liter of resin. And it's important to go through the features and benefits of this map chromatography step. Unique separation mechanism and differentiated selectivity. The mixed mode mechanism allows purification of antibody or other proteins that cannot be easily achieved by conventional techniques such as ion exchange or conventional HIC, for example, playing on differences in hydrophobicity and separation of proteins with very close isoelectric points. So remember, if they're, the isoelectric points are very close between separation, then hydrophobic interaction becomes uh, the choice of chromatography, you can say. Direct immunoglobulin capture from a variety of feedstock due to its unique ligand structure. MAP hypercell sorbent is immunoglobulin selective antibody binding occurs at neutral pH and is largely independent of ionic strength. Concentration of dilute sample is not necessary. Example, efficient capture is achieved even with feedstock as dilute as 50 to 100 micrograms IgG per ml. Immunoglobulin purification from protein-free and protein-supplemented cell culture supernatant transgenic milk. You don't need to go through all this. And then IgG elution in mild condition and separation of contaminant is eluded in the pH. So IgG is typically eluted in the pH 5.5 to 4.0 range, um, and that's true. Give me one quick second. Let me go through my other file that I have opened up in another laptop to confirm what they have as an elution pH. Give me one quick second. Clean 2 volume, Shrif volume. Give me one more second. 3 CV, 4 CV, 9 CV. It doesn't illustrate the pH of the elution for some reason. Um, I'll ask somebody tomorrow why it doesn't have the elution pH. Um, Maybe they eliminated it from this file due to other reasons. And it's not a critical parameter as far as I'm concerned. IgG is typically eluted in the pH 5.5 to 4.0 range, depending on isoelectric points and contaminants profile. This milder elution compared to protein A affinity may contribute to reduced aggregate formation and better preservation of the antibody biological activity. So you can see that the reduce aggregate formation and better preservation of the antibody biological activity. So maybe that's probably why that's mostly why it's a good choice of chromatography. Moreover, MEP hypercell sorbents pH dependent elution mechanism allows the separation of HCPs, DNA, antibody aggregates, and myth forward from the monomeric IgG based on differences of hydrophobicity. In some cases, the addition of arginine in MAP hypercell elution buffer 0.1 to 1.0 molar reduces the risk of antibody aggregation and prevents the loss of solubility encountered at acidic pH with many antibodies and allow even milder pH elution around pH 7.0. Let me read that again. It's I'm having a good time making this video actually. In some cases, the addition of arginine in MAP hypercell elution buffer 0.1 to 1.0 m molar reduces the risk of antibody aggregation. So the addition of this in MAP hypercell elution buffer reduces the risk of antibody aggregation and prevents the loss of solubility. So one of the main thing about this biological process is one of the biggest problem they face is the aggregation, and in order to prevent it, they're saying the addition of arginine in MAP hypercell elution buffer reduces the risk of antibody and prevents the loss of solubility encountered at acidic pH with many antibodies and allow even milder pH elution around 7.0. Protein binding in no salt or low salt conditions. Several families of non-antibody recombinant proteins have been purified using MAP hypercell sorbent in contrast to conventional HIC example, phenol or butyl ligands. Protein binding to the sorbent does not require the massive addition of salts such as ammonium sulfate or other lyotrope. So protein binding to sorbent does not require the massive addition of salt such as ammonium sulfate. So that's another point that is important. I'm gonna jot it down here. My bad. And the other one was also important, the aggregate. Um, the this is I forgot where. Oh yeah. So this point is pretty important. IgG elution in mild condition and separation of contaminant, protein binding in no salt or low salt condition. This is important, so you need to know these 2 points if you want to explain or sound fancy in an interview. Protein methods, screening and scale up. So this is the application. The physical and chemical properties of MAP hypercell sorbent are well suited to both laboratory, pilot, and process scale use. So it is well suited to both. Um, so you want to write this down as well. To both MAP hypercell sorbent is compatible with system routinely used for low or medium pressure process chromatography. Um, with For challenging separation of protein and impurities, it is recommended to screen MAP hypercell sorbent along with HEA hypercell and PPA hypercell mixed mode sorbents carrying aliphatic and aromatic synthetic ligands that provide additional chromatography selectivities. Um, at laboratory scale or for methods development, efficient separation can be achieved using 96 well filter plates or Paul R's PRC prepack column. The 1 ml and 5 ml PRC prepack column demonstrates a high packing efficiency to 2500 plates per meters. It can be directly connected to commonly used laboratory chromatography system and deliver optimal and consistent performance. Further scale up to 900 ml sorbent volume can be achieved by packing the sorbent in this. A pilot and process scale application, MAP hypercell sorbent has been designed to meet uh, pilot to process manufacturing scale requirements in protein purification and is currently used in column of multi multi-liter up to several hundred liter volumes. Specific packing protocol and technical support for large-scale column packing are available. Um, Separation mechanism. A specification particle size 80 to 100 micrometer. Dynamic binding capacity is greater than 20 milligrams per ml. Again, for pyridine, ligand density 80 to ligand 80 to 120 micromole per ml, working volume 2 to 12, clearing pH 2 to 12, 2 to 14, pressure resistant 3 bars G, and typical working pressure 1 bar G, 14 psi G. And then you can see that separation mechanism, multimode mechanism is this protein binding neutral pH, no feedstock adjustment. 4 MEP ligand has a pKa of 4.8 and contains a hydrophobic tail and an ionizable head group. At physiological pH, the aromatic pyridine ring is uncharged and hydrophobic. 4 MEP's immunoglobulin selective additional contributions to IgG binding are provided by the aliphatic spacer arm and at interactions from the thioether group. Both ligand structure and ligand density are designed to provide effective protein binding in the absence of salt or at low concentration. So the ligand structure is important. I just want to know the effect of the spacer arm in affinity chromatography based on the adsorption equilibrium of L asparaginase on activated sapphiros with aliphatic diamines. What the heck? Okay. I think it's a topic of another video spacer arm. Anyhow, so basically, um, so they add the aliphatic spacer arm and interaction with the thioether group, both ligand structure, blah blah blah. So protein elution, electrostatic charge repulsion by decreasing pH steps. Um, Protein desorption is prompted by electrostatic charge repulsion by reducing the pH of the mobile phase, like charges are established on both the ligands and protein. When pH of the mobile phase is reduced, the magnitude of the opposing charges, depending on the PL of the target protein and the pKa of the ligand. Figure 2 illustrates the binding mechanism of IgG with a pKa of 4.8. The ligand will carry 50% positive charge at pH 4.8 or 10% positive charge at pH 5.8. Even with only 10% positive charge present on the ligand, desorption will occur if the protein carries a net positive charge of sufficient magnitude. This electrostatic charge repulsion mechanism is not specific to IgG and can also be exploited to purify a broad variety of non-antibody proteins or to remove specific contaminants from a complex feedstock. So protein elution, electrostatic charge repulsion by decreasing pH steps. Protein desorption is prompted by electrostatic charge repulsion. By reducing the pH of the mobile phase, like changes are established on both the ligands and protein. When pH of the mobile phase is reduced, the magnitude of the opposing charges depend on the PL of the target protein and the pK of the ligands. Figure 2 illustrates the binding mechanism of IgG with a pK of 4.8 and the ligand will carry 50% positive charge at pH 4.8 or 10% positive charge. So basically, they reduce the pH in steps. As for any other capacity, as for any other chromatography sorbent, the capacity of MAP hypercell sorbent depends on many parameters, including the nature of the target protein, its isoelectric point, and the feedstock composition. Typically, capacities reported for non-antibody recombinant protein vary from 10 to 100 mg per ml, and capacities for IgG are in the 20 to 30 mg per ml range. Now the capacity, um, as for any other chromatography sorbent, the capacity of MAP hypercell sorbent depends on many parameters, including the nature of the target protein, its isoelectric point, and the feedstock composition. So these are the parameters it depends on. Typically, capacities reported for non-antibody recombinant proteins vary from 10 to 100 mg per ml, and capacity for IgG are in the 20 to 30 mg per ml range. Human polyclonal is this. The rest time influences the yield purity ratio and should be optimized on a case by case basis. Usually, the column linear flow rate should be adjusted in order to keep an average of 5 to 8 minutes resident time for optimal capacity. According to purity yield results, resident times may be decreased to shorten the purification cycle duration. Binding pH, the relative hydrophobicity of MEP hypercell sorbent can be modulated by variation of the pH. For separation of weakly hydrophobic protein, MEP would be used at neutral pH, while separation of a strongly hydrophobic protein could be conducted at lower pH, while where relative hydrophobicity of MEP and binding is weaker.